to have any policies in place to drag us out of that hole.
And the health and fitness industry running for its life. How these businesses managed to survive the pandemic.
Obviously, having overheads with no income is really stressful. You know, it has put pressure on them whether they can actually reopen going forward.
The country's policymakers could be facing a grim new record with warnings the budget may be in the red for at least 2 decades. The Prime Minister says job creation is key to tackling debt. But just a week after Scott Morrison rolled out his Accord 2.0, employers and unions are at odds over a hike for the minimum wage. Former Federal Treasurer Wayne Swan has cautiously backed the ACTU, saying it's time for a discussion over a wage rise for the lowest paid workers. Wayne Swan, welcome to The Business.
Good to be with you.
Wayne, last week the Prime Minister Scott Morrison's Accord 2.0 was greeted fairly well, but it looks like employers and the ACTU now seem to have dug their heels in already over the minimum wage. Should Australia's lowest paid workers get a pay increase?
Well, I'm very much of the view that the minimum wage plays an important role in our economy, and in particularly at a time when we've seen the biggest fall in consumption spending since the Great Depression. I think it is time to have a sensible discussion about the level of the minimum wage and how much it's increased. But we can't do that in isolation from all of the other policies and responses, both public and private. So I'd like to see a balanced discussion in which this was part of the discussion but not the end. You see, our economy is approaching September. We're about to fall off an economic cliff and we don't seem to have any policies in place to drag us out of that hole. You see, we've got JobKeeper being applied at the moment. It's cushioned the fall in the economy, but we've got no policies post-September to drag the economy out of the hole and to set the scene for how we will grow in the year ahead. And that's why I think the commentary from the Reserve Bank Governor was so important last week. He basically said, we're going to need medium, longer-term stimulus. We're going to have to do that until the recovery is assured. I've never seen a statement as strong as that was made by the Reserve Bank Governor last week. So in that context, everything we do which impacts on consumption, including the living wage, including whether we extend JobKeeper, including whether we make critical investments by way of stimulus in the construction industry, has to be on the table at the same time.
You talked of the cliff in September. Can we afford to have a cliff? What should the government be doing?
At a minimum, we're looking at levels of unemployment around 10%, maybe a little lower, but underemployment, when that's added in, we're looking at around probably 20% of the workforce. And what we know about recessions is that while unemployment and underemployment goes through the roof pretty quickly, it doesn't come down like that. And it takes years and years to bring it down, and it leaves scars in the economy. The skills destruction and the capital destruction that comes with it means we have to act now. Otherwise, the cost of not acting will be far higher than the cost of the additional stimulus we need to secure our small businesses and to make sure our workforce is protected.
To ensure that that workforce is protected, the PM obviously convened that accord, but we are seeing some discontent, I guess, between the parties.
Sure.
Now. Do you think we'll get the kind of agreement necessary to pull this country and this economy out of this crisis? Look,
I hope they can find common ground. We've had 7 years where the government has been at war with the union movement. It's good that they've been invited to the table, and it's good that employers are sitting down there as well. I mean, during the global financial crisis, employers and unions sat down all of the time. The fact that this is seen as remarkable is a commentary on what the government policy has been for the past 7 years. So it would be great if we could get common ground. But let me make this point. Even if there were to be common ground, even if there were to be agreement on changing collective bargaining rules and so on, none of that is particularly relevant to what we need to do in the next 12 months to drag the economy out of the hole that we are going to experience come September. So in a sense, we're having an important conversation about the long term, and we ought to use the stimulus that we put in place to lift our productive capacity in the economy. But that's not particularly relevant to whether somebody's going to get a new job or get some support for a job next September through next year.
Today, accounting firm PwC said that unless there is enormous job creation, we are looking down the barrel of 2 decades of deficit. Would this be an opportune time for the government to spend that spare $60 billion it now has?
What really alarms me about the economy is before COVID came along, private capital investment was going down, private consumption was very weak. So we are now confronted with the worst of all worlds. We had a weak economy going in, and now consumption has collapsed, and it may well be that after this that we will see a fearful consumer. And no matter what the government does, but particularly if the public are not confident that the government's got a plan for the future, they will save more and spend less, thereby making the downturn even harsher. And that's a real concern. So I think we need to get some confidence into the system by the government showing it has got a plan beyond September, other than having a couple of working groups talking about changes in industrial relations. And no matter how important you think that is, it's not going to do the job that we need done post-September. It may impact in the future, but it's not going to solve that problem that we've got post-September going through Christmas and next year.
Wayne Swan, good to have you on the program.
Good to be with you.
The pandemic hit on the economy is starting to show up in capital city house prices. And there's a stark warning the real test will come after bank loan holidays expire in September. The latest monthly snapshot shows national house prices eased just 0.4% during May. Melbourne took one of the biggest hits. Prices slipped 0.9%. Sydney also dipped, while prices in Adelaide, Hobart and Canberra all increased. After plunging 33% in April, sales activity recovered by more than 18% in May. Longer term, CoreLogic says more than 600,000 jobs lost from the economy will see a lift in mortgage arrears and forced sales, which could impact prices more heavily. To the markets, and banks and miners managed a strong rally to turn around early losses. The All Ordinaries and the ASX 200 both ended more than 1% stronger for the day, and the Australian dollar is currently worth 67.4 US cents. Julia Lee from Berman Invest joined me. Julia, there was a nice comeback on the markets today, no doubt helped by some strong manufacturing numbers out of China.
We did see a big day for the Australian share market, and there was a 100-point range. In fact, in the morning, the market was down 0.8%. And as you mentioned, Rachel, the turnaround point came after those China numbers. We did see manufacturing numbers out of China, and they were good. Now, these manufacturing numbers, when it's a number above 50, signifies growth, and below 50 signifies contraction. And we did see a read of 50.7 for May, which not only was a great reflection on China, but gave hope to the rest of the world that we'll see a quick bounce back from COVID-19. We did see the material sector, the best performing sector, and building materials were very much in focus on reports that we could see a construction subsidy or a renovation subsidy. And we did see stocks like Adelaide Brighton, Boral, as well as Bingo doing well on the market.
Well, speaking of building materials, iron ore prices are soaring, and that's been another good day for Fortescue Metals Group.
It's been a record day for Fortescue, which is the lowest price producer on the Aussie share market. Now, when we look at commodities, we look at the supply side and the demand side. And really, it is the supply side that's been driving up prices. It's concerned that Brazil, which is the second largest exporter of iron ore after Australia, is being impacted in terms of COVID-19 and its ability to export iron ore. And that's been great news for prices. On the demand side, a speculation that China will need stimulus through infrastructure, which needs iron ore, also helping to support. So iron ore above 100 US a tonne, and Fortescue up 6% at a new record high.
Now, of course, another major exporter for Australia is agriculture. Rabobank bullish on the sector.
When we look at agriculture, it is very cyclical. And if we have a look at the agricultural sector, it's coming out of drought. Crop is good. The winter cropping season has been good, and that's great news for agricultural stocks. In fact, some of the best performing stocks on the Aussie share market this year are agricultural stocks. We've seen Elders gaining 50%. We've also seen stocks like Bega up by 20%, and we've seen stocks like GrainCorp up by 30%. Not only that, those companies which have land, so looking at Rural Funds Co, which has agricultural land, we're seeing strong yields there, and that's trading up 3% for the year, which doesn't sound like much until you look at the property sector, which is down 20% for the year.
Julia Lee, thanks for your insights.
Thanks, Rachel.
Pubs and clubs were allowed to reopen today in New South Wales with up to 50 people, but gyms remain shut despite other states easing restrictions. The peak body, Fitness Australia, has urged governments to bring forward gym reopenings, saying the Ruby Princess outbreak started in restaurants, not the gym. Stephanie Chalmers spoke to the owners of two small businesses, one with a timeline for reopening, the other still waiting.
I'm Lucy Beaumont. I own and run Scout Pilates, so we've been operating not even a year, since August 2019. The business has been building really well. We've been received really well by the community. As soon as COVID hit, we started to get a little bit of uncertainty. It was quite frightening to try and be responsible for so many people's safety. It was exhausting.
My name is Carl Nevin and this is CrossFit CBD, and we like to utilise weightlifting, gymnastics, cardio movements. Business was flowing nicely. Like, we were coming out of summer, and summer seasonably is a good time for the for the gym industry, and it was like night and day when the government started to make some measures.
Hi guys, welcome to your 8:30 a.m. class this morning. To spin a business model so quickly and to execute it well and give our clients, the experience that they have come to expect at Scout, it was difficult. So at first, I just took a week to really kind of plan and think about it.
Once you've done 10 each side, we'll have you do a Cossack squat. We found out Sunday night and they said Monday at midday you have to shut. We went from about that period on Monday morning, within 24 hours we had put ourselves online. Revenue just dropped quite dramatically, we would say overnight. So there was a time when we were kind of worried about how that was going to pan out, and luckily things like JobKeeper actually helped. 22nd of June is coming, and some of our members can't wait. Others, understandably, aren't sure yet, but measures we're taking in place are, for a start, living by the 4 square metre rule that the government has put in place.
The health and safety of everyone is paramount. We are really lucky here. We've got, a 400 square metre warehouse. We socially distance and adhere to all the protocols. We've got contact tracing in terms of how we book in and mark off our clients. We've got, the hand sanitizer, alcohol wipes, temperature guns. Yeah, I think health and fitness and mental health is so important, and to kind of have gyms and fitness at the very end just feels a little bit odd, I guess. I've been friends with a lot of other studio owners in Sydney and in Melbourne, and we were all constantly talking to each other. Now that you have your date in for the 22nd, that's right?
Yes, 22nd, we're allowed to reopen capacity of 10 for fitness classes, which we only have 10 reformers, so that works perfectly for us. I'm still in the process of nutting it all out. I have yet to contact everybody, all of our clients, to let them know what the processes and procedures we're putting in place are.
Obviously, having overheads with no income is really stressful. We should be able to kind of manage that. I've seen a lot of other businesses, not just in the fitness industry, really struggle with it, and it has put pressure on them whether they can actually reopen.
Start high in the bum, dive bomb down, and let that bum come up. Our guys loved the high fives, the camaraderie, the cheering each other on, and yeah, we got sweaty and stuff, and in the olden days, for sure, people were chest bumping and stuff, but right now I feel like it's going to be a come in, get your workout in, and get out of the gym in the nicest possible way. And I feel over time that community spirit will be evolving in a different way.
And that's